modifiable, non-communicable diseases. And in Trinidad and Tobago in particular is no different. Madam Presiding Officer, 70% of the deaths in the Caribbean region are due to cancers, diabetes, and obesity. Childhood obesity is a growing concern in the Caribbean. Through a report prepared by the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute for the period 2009 to 2010, we found that 23% of the primary school children in Trinidad and Tobago were overweight or obese. A further 25% of secondary school children were found to be overweight or obese, with 14% being underweight. Looking at a local study by Nichols and Cadogan, Francis Cadogan, a physician from this island, where they looked at the prevalence of obesity among our school children, and they noted a prevalence of obesity of 12.2% in boys and 43.6% in girls in the sample they used. Overall, females had significantly higher BMIs and total skin fold thickness, but lower mean weight and height than their male counterparts. The females 12 to 15 years were more likely than their male counterparts to be overweight or obese. Madam Presiding Officer, when we look at the other Caribbean islands, the Bahamas, at which a similar study was done, we noted that our adolescents were at greater risk for obesity and being overweight.
I call this motion an obesity motion. This is a fat motion. This is what you will have done for yet another time. This is the 7th sitting, Madam Presiding Officer. 7 is a number that means completion. And I believe that after a few practice sessions, they would have gotten it right. We are in this house. We are mandated by the people outside of this house to debate issues that are burning, issues that are relevant to the running of the country. As a matter of fact, the Tobago House of Assembly was established to create policies and enact assembly laws for the better governance of Tobago. And here we are. Instead of discussing healthy eating in school, we are discussing a fat motion. But I'm not half as worried about that as I am worried about this. What are the trends in Tobago that link eating to obesity? What are the numbers? What are the villages most susceptible to obesity? Where are the people located? Where is the data? I'm concerned about that. Where is the data? Where are the trends? Do we just come in the house, write a motion and talk about Denmark, talk about Timbuktu, talk about Africa, Saharan desert? Where are we going? This is Tobago. And all of our discussions ought to be pointed on revealing to the people outside of this house that we are understanding and we are in the fullness of knowledge regarding the problem that exists outside. And if obesity, which is not to my knowledge a problem in Tobago, if obesity is a problem, then what are the trends? Where are the facts? What type of food do we eat in Tobago or what type of, or what sections of the meal, I should say, what sections of the meal in school feeding contribute to obesity? What section? Is it the rice? Is it the dumplings? What we want to change in the school feeding program? I'm troubled by this. After 6 motions, the 7th one, and here we are again, playing.
This is an exciting time for us at the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy. Madam Presiding Officer, healthy eating habits in childhood promote childhood health, growth, and facilitates intellectual development. Madam Presiding Officer, I did my research, and there's a study that was published in the Canadian Journal of School Health, where they studied 5,200 Canadian elementary students. And the criteria they used were diet quality and academic performance. And what this article said was that the students in the elementary schools that participated in a healthy diet and exercised regularly, they performed better academically and they performed well on the literacy test that was given. In essence, Madam Deputy Presiding Officer, as a teacher, what this says is that the students were able to read better. They were able to comprehend better. Their vocabulary skills were enhanced. They were able to compose and write even better. Ladies and gentlemen, diet has a profound effect on not only our physical development, but from an educational perspective, it has a profound effect on our mental well-being. Madam Presiding, the data would come. Madam Presiding Officer, we all know as of September 2017, the children in our primary schools and secondary schools would be given 100% fruit juices and or water with their meals. Madam Presiding Officer, this is a wonderful move, because we are here to teach our children good eating habits. Madam Presiding Officer, you may be saying, water, Madam Presiding Officer, Deputy Presiding Officer, water. But we all know that the human brain is about 80 to 85% water.
I must admit that when I first read this motion, I kind of thought to myself, well, finally we have a motion that everybody can agree on, and we can have a relatively short day because we don't have to sit here debating, arguing about it, and we can leave early. But then I started reading it again, and I started thinking about the large number of other projects that sounded really nice when you listen to the soundbite, but have failed miserably at achieving its goals and objectives when you actually look at how it was implemented. Deputy Presiding Officer, I keep hearing about this motion being asking us to endorse the decision of the Executive Council to initiate this project. And after listening to several speakers on the side of the majority, I still don't know what is the policy, and I still don't know what is the project. So I still don't know what you are asking me to endorse. I am therefore forced, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, to ask for details. And I am glad that I am asking these questions a bit early because I understand that there are about 3 other members who need to speak from the majority side after I sit down. And we're hoping that we would give them the opportunity to answer these questions so that at the end we can say, okay, yes, we agree with the policy because we know what the policy is, or we agree with the project because we know what the project is. Deputy Presiding Officer, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, I will raise some of my points by highlighting examples where the devil was in the details. Because the devil was in the details, I am forced to ask some of these what seems to be simple, insignificant, kind of nitpicky questions. But as I said before, the devil is in the details. How exactly will this healthy eating in schools project fit into the larger structure of the Division of Health, the Division of Education, or so? What exactly are you planning to do? Are we going to hire new staff to do something? What exactly are we doing? Are we going to reassign staff to do something? I'm asking these questions because I tried listening, I've been listening, and I still don't know the answer. I still don't know how this is going to be rolled out. What role exactly do we have for teachers? Because, rightly said, if this is an initiative in the schools, then the teachers must play an integral part in that initiative. Have the teachers been involved in the development of the project? What about tutor? Is tutor involved in this project? See, Deputy Presiding Officer, I asked this question because I have heard the other members speak about, for example, a post-SEA remedial program that is supposed to happen in some schools and so forth. And after they spoke about those programs, I heard tutor representatives saying, well, they don't know anything about it, they were not consulted, they have no information. So, because this is something that's happening in schools and because the teachers are a big chunk of what happened in schools, I need to know, how will the teachers be involved? As I said before, the devil is in the details. Who will be responsible for implementing the program? What exactly are we asking them to do? Are we also talking about changing the curriculum to include these things, to include what we're talking about? Or do we just want to say we're pushing healthy foods down the throat of the young people?
I stand here as the Secretary for Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries to support my colleague in the area of food production, forestry and fisheries as it relates to this entire fundamental issue, human health. And it therefore seems very obvious that food and health are related. And as the minority leader would have said, yes, you are correct there. If it's one correct statement you make for the evening, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. Yeah. And in that statement alone that you made, you should have supported the entire motion. Yes. So, agriculture affects really whether people have enough food to eat or whether the food is of sufficient nutritional value, whether it is safe for human consumption. So history would have taught us that it is not that simple, since there are different ways of looking at the relationship between agriculture, food, and health. Agriculture connections to food and health are mediated, if not influenced, by the natural environment. Human culture and technological changes. The challenge today is how to achieve equitable food production that delivers optimum nutrition for health and therefore requires an even better understanding of the interplay between agriculture and the environment, culture and technical capacity, and how this has changed over time. This concept, Deputy Presiding Officer, is noted as above. Is not lost on the Tobago House of Assembly in the General Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries. Particularly while we are planning for sustainable development and management of the food production, forestry and fisheries sector in our economy of Tobago, it can be agreed, therefore, that these sectors representing agriculture in Tobago present key opportunities for improving nutrition and health, not only among our children and the school, but the entire Tobago.
The mantra or the motto is quite simple: building families, self-sustaining communities, and a healthy, productive workforce. If, in the view of some, this cannot be reconciled with the spirit of this motion, then I think that we need to check ourselves just a little bit more before we continue along the paths of misrepresentation and misleading the public. And I say that most especially, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, because I sat here and I cast for a while my attention in the public gallery, and I saw students, I saw children, and I heard the minority leader stand to say that this motion is trivial and that in his view it should be deemed obese. And instead of providing the context and enlightening the listening audience, especially the children, with information that can support the spirit of the motion and that can redound to the benefit of all Tobagonians, he instead engaged us in a conversation about how to get away with murder. Now, I don't know about any other person, but I know about me. And that suggests to me, Deputy Presiding Officer, that the core personality of an individual does not change. Having assumed that he would have gotten away with something else, he now thinks that he is an authority on how to get away with murder. No sun outlasts its sunset, but will rise again, bringing the dawn. In any event, I want to very quickly signal to the members in this House that whereas this motion was called trivial and it is deemed obese, I know that the good lead doctor, the Secretary for Wellness, Health, Wellness and Family Development will not withhold forgiveness, even from those who do not ask, because of the absence of malice in her heart. Ma'am, we support this motion strongly, and we are now going to put forward to further the conversation all of the information to enlighten the public as to why we support it and why it will translate into a policy which will be recognized here in the Tobago context. You see, I sat here and I listened to people go on and on and on. And I couldn't help but recognize that whereas the trend in the early's Deputy Presiding Officer was to get up and walk out the House, they have corrected that by sitting down but having their minds walk out the House. Because the honorable members of this House, in their intimations, would have spoken directly to statistics, would have spoken to policies, would have spoken to programs, would have spoken to educational opportunities and trainings and the likes, and members still have the audacity to stand and ask for evidence and information as if they were mentally absent, even though their bodies were present in some dumb mode. Something is wrong with that.
I want to commence by reminding members of this House what a motion really is and the characteristics of a motion. This motion, like other motions, really, they have two parts. In the first part, we have the preamble, or we have the discussion surrounding the resolution. In the second part, we have the resolution, or in some cases, as is the case today, resolutions, more than one. One would expect that whenever there is a debate, that the central thesis of our arguments must be posited in and around our resolutions. This motion is positing two things. Firstly, it is asking this House to endorse the Healthy Eating in Schools pilot project. And I have noted that some members in this House have attempted and tried to school us on linguistics, of which I am an expert. And I can say expertly that if you are going to say the Healthy Eating in Schools pilot project, it means that one exists, or you are talking specifically about a Healthy Eating in School pilot project, a specific project. My colleagues all asked, both of them asked, went through great pains to ask, what is the Healthy Eating in School pilot project? What is it? What are the tenets of this project, Madam Presiding Officer? If you have a pilot project, one expects that there is a sample size, and you must have justification for that sample size. One expects that you can say concretely what are the things inherent in this project. Instead, what we have is that folks in the House, members of the House rather, got up and spoke about several things that they think their division is doing or can do that is related to healthy eating in schools. And the question asked, one of the pivotal questions being asked that has not been answered, despite all the gambashing, despite all the flowery language, despite the insults traded, despite all of that, no one has stood to answer affirmatively and definitively what the Healthy Eating in Schools pilot project is. And so, even as we inch towards the end of this debate, Tobagonians who are watching still do not know what this project specifically will entail. They may have heard a few things that some divisions are doing. They may have heard about what some schools have been doing in the past. But this project, is this project going to be implemented at 4 schools, 5 schools, 6 schools? Does it include preschools in it, tertiary schools in it, primary, secondary? How do we plan to roll it out? Is it in a phase basis? What? Because you're asking us to endorse the Healthy Eating in Schools pilot project. And one would think that the move of the motion, an academic, will understand that if you're moving a motion like this, that some credible meat, some body, some life must be given to the things you ask this House to be resolved to do. The second thing this motion asks us to do is to resolve to take appropriate steps to encourage all stakeholders to support this worthy initiative. Well, there were some appropriate steps being mentioned in and out of the House today. But even in this context, members could not say very strategically what those appropriate steps are and who the stakeholders are that this House, or the Executive Council rather, wants to engage. And so really, the question is, do we have the pilot project already? Is the pilot project document already written up? Do we know the framework for this pilot project? And if we do, why was it so wrong, so obscene to even share it in the House today? Because you're asking us to endorse a pilot project and we don't know what are the frameworks of the pilot project.
Madam Presiding Officer, I am grateful for the opportunity to present such a motion which is contributing to and which has the potential to contribute to improving the lives of our children, one that will secure our children for the future, for future generations. For those of us who have children, I have 2 of my own, that I am trying to secure their own future as well, and therefore much of what we have presented on this side is a recognition that we must do our part with respect to that. Maintaining a healthy body weight and participating in physical activity has the potential to improve one's quality of life. I encourage all of us to understand why that is so. For those who do not know, we are presently seeing in our general hospital an average of 11 strokes per month. Last year, we had over 150 stroke patients presenting to us for care. It says to us that we have to pay attention to the lifestyle diseases that beset our population. No longer can we concentrate on old beliefs. We must understand that we have to take care of ourselves. As individuals, we must assume full responsibility, but the system will provide for you the support you require. We want to encourage that. Whereas we know that some of us think that there is some genetic issue that relates to our body size and the fact that we need to be bulkier, may I remind you that we need to pay attention to how we eat. We want to suggest to you that we avoid consuming those foods that are called unhealthy foods, what we call foods that are nutritionally deficient, because this will result in adverse health effects. We want to encourage you to not eat sometimes, and I listen to people saying that my mother cooked this and my parents cooked that and so on. We want to encourage you to look closely at what was eaten before and see whether those represent healthy eating. We want to encourage you as well, as we examine food products, that we look at the labeling and ensure that what we are really buying are those things that we should buy. Let me just also say that we know that there are challenges in terms of changing behavior. We recognize it is an uphill battle. Hence the reason for addressing this problem as early as we are attempting to do it from the schools. We believe that by engaging the school children, we'll be able to impact those children such that they become healthier adults. We believe that our meaningful educational programs in both primary and secondary schools will bend that curve of youth obesity. We want to look at those numbers and ensure that we bring those numbers down. We think we have the commitment on this side, and I know it is on the other side, that you are interested in improving the lot of the youth. Some of you who have, who claim to be teachers, you know that our youth is our future, and we encourage you to support this motion. Finally, I want to urge parents, I want to urge members of community groups, the private sector, civil society, NGOs, CBOs, FBOs, to themselves engage in healthy practices, to take steps to protect our future generation from health problems in adulthood. It is crucial that the health and welfare of our children is looked at. It is crucial that we promote and protect them. Madam Presiding Officer, this is an imperative if we have to advance our health and wellness agenda in Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago in general. I thank you.
The question is, whereas the health of the people of Tobago is a priority for the Assembly, and the health of our children an even greater priority, and whereas the prevalence and severity of obesity among children is increasing, which can lead to chronic illnesses, and whereas diet has a profound effect on the physical and mental well-being and long-term health of individuals, be it resolved that this House endorse the decision of the Executive Council to initiate the Healthy Eating in Schools pilot project, and be it further resolved that this House take appropriate steps to encourage all stakeholders to support this worthy initiative. All in favor? Aye. All against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried.